heading into pensions in the next not too distant future. I didn't even tell you that they also get free medical the rest of their lives. I calculated that out just on $500 a month. That's almost $2 million. They get a free med. It's not free. I mean, they don't pay it, but somebody's going to pay it. So, this will continue. We either fire a bunch, like old, or scare the bejesus out of a bunch so that they'll be concerned about losing the best part-time job they'll ever get. And that's fine with me. I outlined a plan last month, and those that were here, developing a voting record chart where I took every politician, left-hand column, and across the sheet, the issues that we most are concerned about that affect our wallet: pensions, property tax, right to work, paycheck protection, goes on. And we're charting all of these politicians, how many are sponsoring any of these bills, and how many are just skirting by and don't want to be bothered. In the right-hand column, I have another column that says, are they accepting the pensions? Folks, I'm telling you, if these guys become a zero across the sheet, or even if they only support maybe one item, and they're taking a pension, they are taxpayer parasites and do not deserve to stay in office. And I want them out. I've chased my tail in legislation for God knows how many years, particularly the last 4. And with, as you recall, Senator, God, I'm glad I forgot his name, Senate Majority Leader up until recently, Pelagi. Since Pelagi was dumped through pressure from folks like us, they have Corman in there now. We'll see where it goes. The unfortunate thing is, not only Corman, but all these guys I mentioned, they all voted for the 50% tax increase, and most, our pension increase, and most of them voted for the midnight pay raise. So, they're not looking out for us, they're looking out for them. I'm working on a program to dump these guys, but hopefully working with the organization we created, We the People, that I can disseminate information across the state to other leaders of like-minded groups, that these folks will be put on notice that they're not doing the job we're paid them to do, but they're certainly doing a job that suits them. And I want them out of there. I want them out in the worst way. I am done, I'm telling you. If anybody that supports any of my legislation, and he's on the pension list, that doesn't make him a friend of mine. It just means he's trying to get by without getting caught with his hand in the till. I encourage anybody that wants to help with us. I'll be calling a legislative meeting next Tuesday, and we're going to go through some of these things. It's going to take research to get this data together. I spent considerable time to get it off the ground, but for those that want to be part of this, I encourage you to put your name back there with Linda, and I'll give you an email notice when the meeting is going to be held. But folks, we got to change this. We got to change this in the worst way. This state is dire straits financially, and it was brought on by the people who are supposed to keep the state financially in order, and it's not working. It's time to make a change. Thank you. Next on our agenda is Tom Campion, who will speak on the subject that was also of concern, maybe not financially, but otherwise. Tom?
Thank you, Rod. Actually, before I speak on this subject, I'd first like to thank each and every one of you for coming out on this very dark, rainy night. It is critically important that you come out to these meetings. you all are true patriots. To see a group this size show up, you are truly patriots and what makes this country great. It's important for you to come out to these meetings. Why? Because you know what? Lawmakers and other politicians talk. And when your board works hard to get out there and make changes in the community on our behalf, the lawmakers measure the size of this audience and they relate that to how much power your board has when they're in there negotiating and trying to get things done. So, keep coming and bring your friends. Okay. The topic that I was asked to touch base on is the student search project. You may recall that this project was launched when we first found out that most Berks County school districts do not have a policy prohibiting student strip searches. And that without such a policy, strip searches can, in fact, be conducted. So our goal, that is Berks County Patriots, specifically the Legislative Committee, our goal is to get each school district to implement a written policy that says if there's a need to search a student that requires the removal of clothing, school administrators are prohibited from conducting that search, and instead, police must conduct it. Further, parents must be contacted as soon as the decision to conduct this type of search is made. So, we started out, Judy and Sue began building a spreadsheet with addresses for each school board, the board president's name, and other details on their current policy. We were going to send a letter to all of these school districts, but after some discussion, decided that it was best perhaps to wait until after the November school board elections, because lots of people will be changing. Since we're now facing the holidays, we actually plan to begin sending these letters in January. And these letters will ask them to reply yes or no, they will or will not implement a no strip search policy. If they don't respond to the letter, the plan is for us to go to their school board meetings and to read the letter publicly in front of them and to again ask for them to answer with a very simple yes or no. They will or they will not. If they say yes, great. If they say no, then we plan to get parents in that school district involved and ask them to contact the board members and the school board president, demanding a no strip search policy. Obviously, this is a great deal of work, but we feel we owe it to our youngsters and to our Constitution. So know that Berks County Patriots is looking for volunteers to help with the school district strip search program. We need people to attend these board meetings and to present our proposal, read the letter. We'll provide the material necessary for you to present at these meetings and other assistance as may be required. If you are willing to get on board with this project and give us a hand, please see Judy after the meeting. Thank you very much.
My pleasure introduce our speaker for the evening, Colonel Bob Desousa. He's Senator Toomey, State Director. Besides that, he was a state judge advocate for the National Guard. He was a private attorney and businessman in the Harrisburg area, federal law clerk and assistant U.S. attorney, and served as chief counsel for the Pennsylvania Department of State. He was Inspector General of the Commonwealth under Governor Tom Rich and Mark Schweiker. He's also a colonel in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard, former national president of the Federal Bar Association, chairman of the board of the National Civil War Museum, and he has many awards. He graduated from the U.S. Army College in Carlisle, Bronze Star, Meritorious Service, and many other decorations. He's a member of the American Legion, Military Officers Association, Association of the United States Army, and the Association of the 28th Division. He was on the executive board of the Newport Freedom Boy Scout Council and Knight of the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre. He is a past state judge advocate of the Department of the VFW.
Thank you, Liam. Can I book you for my obituary? What Liam was trying to say is I can't keep a job. I am Bob Desousa. I'm Senator Toomey's state director. What that means is that I run the state operations. Every U.S. senator has two sets of operations: the Washington, D.C. Part, which does the policy, the legislative, and the state operation. We have 7 offices throughout the Commonwealth. Your local office here is Allentown, and each of those offices has a manager, and I oversee that operation. We've got about 45 minutes, half an hour to chat with you tonight. Wanted to give you some update from Washington, leave some time for some discussion from the floor. I want to make it clear that I am an official employee of the United States Senate, so I don't get into what's going on with A's campaign or B's campaign, but other things that are official things going on in that office. And I did talk to Senator Toomey before coming, and he gave me some very good advice. He reminded me, he said, Bob, just because you can't give good remarks doesn't mean you can't give short remarks. So I will go through these quickly, and then we can get some of your questions. But first and foremost, I think the impact of what organizations like this have done, I think many times we focus on our defeats rather than our victories. I think some numbers are just worth thinking about. Prior to this election, this last November, there were 7,383 state legislators in the United States. In this last election, an additional 887 Republican members were elected. Okay? The trend in the state General Assemblies has been in that fashion. That's because of grassroots efforts. Since President Obama became president, 913 since his presidency. So largely in reaction to his presidency and organizations such as this, 913 across state legislatures. After 2 presidential elections and 2 midterms elections, the Republican Party has 33 governor's seats compared to 17 for the Democrats. And during President Obama's presidency, they have lost 11 governorships, 13 U.S. Senate seats, 69 House seats, 30 state General Assemblies. The Republicans control 69 out of 98 partisan state legislatures. The Republicans hold a lead of 247 to 188 in the House of Representatives. Now, in this year, in accordance with the Constitution, a third of the United States Senate is up. So this is a major effort by the Democrats because more Republicans are up than there are Democrats. In Pennsylvania, Pat Toomey is the only statewide elected Republican. So when you talk about statewide elections, that's a little different than when you're talking about the elections for General Assembly or your Congress, because of the way in which the districts are run. Obviously, Senator Toomey represents the entire state. But we have to be mindful, Pennsylvania has a senior senator that's a Democrat, a governor, an auditor general, a treasurer, all elected officials, and at least as of today still an attorney general who are elected Democrats. So Senator Toomey is the only elected statewide Republican in Pennsylvania. Now, in spite of having come into the Senate when the Democrats were in control, and in the last year and a half with the Republicans in control, we have had some conservative victories that we've been able to push through. But first and foremost, Senator Toomey was the leader in banning earmarks. Earmarks are done on the federal side. Okay, no more vote my way and we'll build a bridge in your district. Number one. Number two, and we get, unfortunately, in some pockets of the state, we get a lot of backlash to this, but Senator Toomey has led the charge against the XM Bank, which is essentially a taxpayer on the hook for the lending of money for businesses to do business overseas. Number three, Senator Toomey was one of the main pushers of passing a bill that would prevent the Department of Education from imposing Common Core on states through the waiver process. Now, we can't help whether or not a state voluntarily goes down that path, but that was a victory. I'm on 4, but I skipped one. Let me see what this is. Oh, okay. So up until this last budget, in which Senator Toomey voted no on the current budget, we weren't able prior to this budget, but now unfortunately that victory has disappeared as of very, very shortly. Was being able to pass the balanced budget in fiscal year 2016. Unfortunately, we now have passed this deal that gets us through the end of the Obama presidency, and Senator Toomey's problem with that is very simple. In President Obama's watch, during this 8 years, we will end the Obama presidency with a national debt of approximately $20,000 billion. I don't like to use the word trillion because a trillion is 1,000 billion dollars. For that reason, Senator Toomey voted against the current budget plan. That remains a major problem. But the number 5 was the attempt to put a check on the president regarding Iran, so that he could not do all of the stuff that he wanted to do with Iran. Obviously, he did a lot more than we would have wanted. Obviously, the president, as it relates to the Middle East altogether, we saw him the other day in Turkey. He's frankly doubling down on his position that he has turned this tide and we have nothing to worry about. Senator Toomey, as many of you know, was one of the leaders in pushing right now, saying we need to put a halt to the Syrian and other refugee situation. We are a generous people. We are people who have taken in refugees over the centuries. However, the number one obligation in Senator Toomey's mind of not only the senator but the president is to protect the American people. Until we are sure that we can protect the American people, we should put a halt on that program. The number 6 victory has been getting passed a law to protect our school children from pedophiles. And Pennsylvania had a very good law on that. But there was a thing that was known within the teaching community as passing the trash. So a teacher caught in a district doing untoward things with a child, it was easier for them to let him go, get him out of their state, and then they could come into another state essentially without any trail. Senator Toomey was able to overcome the opposition of the teachers union and get a federal bill that prohibits passing the trash. Sounds like common sense stuff, but it was a battle to get done. We've been laying the marker down on energy. Unfortunately, that effort was just essentially turned around just within the last 2 weeks by the president, finally coming